Target violent felons all you want. We support that. They should be deported.
A few moments later.
Just weeks ago, a convicted sex offender and a foreign national was shielded from deportation by the governor of Minnesota.
You have to appreciate when Democrats swear that something is not happening and then blatantly just do it right in front of your face. Because how many times have you heard over the past year or so in their attempt to seem more moderate or reasonable that Democrats aren't protecting violent criminals? Actually, we do support deporting the worst of the worst and the actual criminals, but hey, that's not what Trump's needlessly cruel administration is doing. He's just ripping innocent people apart from their families. And what we do often find is, first of all, the administration is putting a high priority on those with criminal and arrest records. The data does bear that out. But simultaneously, that's also not true coming from Democrats. They absolutely do protect criminals, and we know that for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, the fact that even when ICE does show up to remove a violent criminal from this country, the same thing happens every single time without even researching or knowing or asking for any facts of the case. You have the Renee Goods and Alex Predis who show up and literally try to help the violent criminal run away and get free from ICE. But we also see that happening at an institutional level. Of course, they try to tell us that the sanctuary city thing is a misnomer. It's not true that they're using the entire prison and justice system to try to shield violent criminals away from ICE. And then we get a story like this one right here out of Minnesota, where I kid you not, here is Tim Walz. While Democrats are claiming the D's support deporting the worst of the worst, we just don't think it should go too far. And then in reality, you know, you hear them when they really speak and they're saying abolish ICE. They're saying nobody's illegal on stolen land. They oppose every single deportation. That's what the far left base says. We know what these people really believe. But over in Minnesota, not only did Tim Walz try to protect a criminal from deportation and grant this person a pardon and clemency, but we're not even just talking about any criminal. We're not even talking about a cartel member here. We're talking about a convicted child rapist. That is right. I am not making this story up. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, tried to shield a convicted child rapist from deportation. And just this week, Marco Rubio announced a great move, which is that he's basically overriding that and not allowing this to stand. So we're fine. Don't worry about that. But this is a story we absolutely cannot ignore, because keep in mind, not only do these people tell us, again, you're not deporting the worst of the worst and we're not in favor of protecting them. Also, how much have we heard in the past year about the whole Epstein political class, right? Trump, Epstein, the Republicans are pedophiles, blah, blah, blah. Totally stupid, bad faith, attack line that's not backed up by any files or anything. But this sort of like political rebrand thing is very interesting because it's been the case forever. Who is the party trying to lower the penalties for actual pedophilia? Who is the party currently in 2026 as we speak trying to shield actual child rapists and sex offenders from deportation? Is that the supposed Epstein political class you claim is in the White House, or is that these people right here? Very interesting. By the way, who was Epstein even in himself, right? What do the emails actually reveal to people who take the time to go check out the files instead of just talking about them? Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was your typical MSNBC watching Trump deranged liberal. Oh, go figure. There seems to be a pattern here, and that's backed up by your policies, right? But let's talk about it. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, this story is legitimately insane, but completely real. Although maybe it's not that crazy if you just understand this is who Democrats are, right? We try to paint the image every single week like, yes, the left really is that crazy and dangerous. No, you're not delusional or something. They're really doing this type of stuff. But of course, right-wingers, they're just crazy conspiracy theorists or stuff like that, right? Well, here you go. An illegal alien child rapist from Laos who is set for deportation until Democrat Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and the State Board of Pardons granted him clemency, has now been removed regardless from the United States, and we'll bring you that story in a second. But first, I want to explain this story to you. So this guy's name is apparently Tou Lue Vang. He's an illegal alien from Laos. And Vang was convicted in 2006 of first-degree criminal sexual conduct. He repeatedly R-worded, raped a girl from 2002, between 2002 and 2004, and told authorities after he was arrested that it is a cultural thing to marry and have sex with girls as young as 12. Absolutely disgusting, right? But by the way, let's just go back to this. The people lecturing us about Epstein political class, not only is it their political policy to give pardons and clemency to actual child rapists, not only over in California, for example, do they try to literally lower the criminal penalties for things like grooming and pederasty and all of that, but now even further, let's not ignore the fact too, you want to talk about where the vast majority of underage sex situations kind of typically come from. There's often this misnomer, right, in America of who is the predator typically, right? Who is like the pedophile guy on the block? And it's just like some creepy white guy, that's what culture says. But what you often find in reality is, when you really delve into these cases, while maybe those people do exist on some level, sure, you're literally importing millions of people from parts of the world, please understand, where this is considered completely normal. And when you actually delve into the majority of these cases, what do we find, right? Across Western nations, you have the image of what the predator looks like in your head from culture and movies and things like that, and then who these people actually are. So let's not forget that as well. The people lecturing us about Epstein political class not only believe it should be criminal justice policy to remove or lower penalties for actual sex offenses committed toward children, it's also so happens to be their immigration policy to import people from parts of the world where, gee, go figure. Why is it that rape rates in Europe have increased dramatically 12-fold, ever since we have witnessed a certain type of immigration that leftists sit there and defend, right? Where were grooming gangs coming from out of the UK for many years that were covered up by the British government? Was that something coming from, random white guys, or was it a different demographic engaged in that? Just something to consider here, right? But again, keep talking about your Epstein political class when we have, it's actually your immigration policy that you proudly support and march for to import pedophiles into this country and allow them to go after children. That's actually what they're doing, right? There's no straw manning going on here. If you want to say, oh, well, he just slipped through the cracks. You're currently trying to pardon and give clemency to this person so that you can shield them from deportation. So please don't even try to make an excuse that, again, Democrats support deporting the worst of the worst. We never said this person should be in the country. We just support the peaceful illegal aliens. Not true. Not true. The record is quite clear. But there you go. Import the third world. What happens next? But anyway, so effectively, right, so that you understand, the exact reason why Tim Walz granted clemency to this literal child rapist, Epstein this, Epstein that, is of course because he believed it would make it harder because this person had some type of legal status, likely TPS, asylum seeker, something like that, to stay in the country, right? And basically hoping there that by giving this person clemency, that would make it harder for the federal government to deport him. So I'm not making that up. They tried to protect the child rapist from deportation. However, Marco Rubio, of course, the tank that he is, stepped in and basically did indeed say to Democrats, no, actually, Tim Walz, you're not going to protect the child rapist from deportation. Take a listen.
Just weeks ago, a convicted sex offender and a foreign national was shielded from deportation by the governor of Minnesota. Laotian national Tou Lue Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota. He even tried to pay his victim for her silence, and he called his heinous crimes a minor thing. Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America. Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States. Because of our action, this foreign criminal will never pose a threat to any American ever again. Americans must never be forced by their elected leaders to live alongside foreign sex criminals who have no right to begin with to reside in our country. This administration will always stand with the American people and defend them from violent criminals.
What a crazy opinion, right? What a nuclear take that American people should not be forced to live next to violent foreign sex criminals who shouldn't even be in this country to begin with. But genuinely, if that is something you believe in 2026, that is indeed a right-wing political position. There's no escaping it. Obviously, things shouldn't be that way. Obviously, you would wish the bipartisan consensus says, okay, Democrats, even if you are pro-illegal alien, maybe this one is okay to deport. No, not the case. Not the case. But again, at the end of the day, should we really be surprised? Because Democrat politicians can say whatever they want, right? They can sit there and criticize and say that they support deporting the worst of the worst. But what did they do when they were in power? For example, open the border to actual people, as you may remember, on terrorist watch lists, actual sexual predators. They weren't deporting. They weren't doing anything, right? They supported an open border. Who do you think that enables? So that's what they actually do. See, I don't care what Democrats say. I care what they do. Right now, a Democrat is in power in Minnesota. What do they do? And even when you want to talk about words, again, what does their base say? Like when they're mask off, what is the actual ideology? Again, no one's illegal on stolen land. We should protect every single violent criminal. This is not even just a matter of immigration policy. It's also a matter of criminal justice policy. We've seen that time and time again as well, right? They try to pretend as if right-wingers are somehow strawmanning or exaggerating when we say, yeah, so these violent criminals are getting arrested 14 times, letting them out of jail every single time, and then they go murder somebody. And then, of course, Irina Zarutska happened, which Democrats conveniently have tried to push under the rug ever since, right? They just pretend as if that was some unpreventable tragedy, right? It's just, hey, a random act of violence. It's so sad, but can we all move on? No, it was completely preventable. It's completely preventable because that person should have been in jail. That was an exact byproduct of the crazy criminal justice policy you say is not happening. And then every single time, what do we find out? Indeed, it is. Pretty strong rule of American politics. If Democrats say something is not happening, if they say they're not doing something, it's typically very easy to prove indeed that they are. And that is exactly this story that we have here yet again. And, you know, typical Tim Walz. What else can we say? I mean, it's been pretty well established that this guy's entire political brand, right? The entire point of Tim Walz's governorship is to protect foreign criminals in many different ways. So should we be surprised, right? The party supposedly fighting Epstein is like actually freeing child rapists and trying to keep them in our country and keep them on your streets too, by the way, right? Because keep in mind, this person with the clemency not only gets let out of jail, not only their criminal record basically expunged, but then also, right? They want this person to go back into your community and live next to you. The person who said, oh, it's not a big deal, it's culturally normal. And by the way, right? I want you to think about this. When Democrats talk about multiculturalism, when they talk about, oh, that's just cultural differences, this is actually what they mean, right? This is the actual reality of what they're importing, especially now in the late 20th and early 21st century. The so-called cultural difference is not, oh, like the level of hospitality or what kind of food you eat. It's about basic disagreements over things like, oh, is pedophilia something that's normal in the culture or not? Like, that's the actual reality, right? Which is hilarious because to me, that's not even a cultural difference. To me, that's just a lack of civilization. I view cultural difference to be, do you shake hands or hug or kiss on the cheek? You know, tipping, things like that. That's cultural difference. But, you know, what Democrats define to be cultural difference is like, oh, is it okay to kill people? Is it okay to rape children? Like, that's actually the difference here. That's actually the political debate, the so-called cultural difference that they're importing, and they're telling you to celebrate in the name of diversity and multiculturalism. And again, if you want to say we're strawmanning, we're not, because who right now is trying to defend, give clemency, protect from deportation, and have live next to your family in Minnesota? That is the Democrats, because as the Laotian crazy predator said himself, it's just a cultural difference. So there you go. There you go. That's actually politics. That's the reality of the Democrat Party. They're just as sick, twisted, and evil as we paint them out to be every week, and appreciate when these people show us exactly who they really are, because then I don't look crazy, right? I don't look like some crazy conspiracy theorist. Anyways, there you have it, guys. That said, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.